At one point, the plan was that they were gonna fly us all in helicopters out to the ship and like airdrop us down onto the deck. This is the Red Sofa. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides, and today I'm gonna tell you about a long lost memory from deep in my head, and that is how I missed my very first cruise. Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad you're here, and I'm gonna have to clear some things up before I start telling this story. First of all, if you're a fan of tangents, this is gonna be the video for you. And the story I'm gonna tell today is something that I literally forgot about. I mean, I don't wanna say like I forgot about it, but I just, it was always like deep in my head, but I guess I just didn't think about the relevance of that to what I do here on YouTube. And the other day I was walking home and thinking about what I was going to do for Sunday Sofatime this week. I've been doing these Sunday Sofatime videos for quite a while now. I think I've been doing it for over 60 weeks. 60 weeks, people! That's a lot of stories. And when I started this, I didn't realize it was going to be so popular. I didn't realize I was going to have so much fun doing it. And I never thought that I would be doing it for this long. And I've been doing a lot of traveling, and there's a lot of things that happen that sort of behind the scenes or that I don't show in the YouTube videos, but eventually I just get to these moments where I'm like, gosh, I'm not sure I have any interesting stories anymore. And then I have moments like this where I'm walking home and I'm like, how could I have forgotten that this happened to me? So I actually missed the very first cruise I was ever booked to go on. And it's a very interesting story, and I'm gonna tell you all the details I can remember right now. And between now and when I edit the video, I'm gonna try to find out some more from the people that I was involved with and working with at this time, because I know that they'll know more. Taking it way back, I think the year must have been 1996 or 1997. I was living in New York City working as a musical theater performer, as a dancer, as a singer, as an acrobat. Those were all things I could do and can still sort of do, but I don't really do that much anymore. I had been doing a couple of gigs for a production company. I'm not gonna name the production company because they still exist, and I don't know, it just feels weird saying that, but they mainly did at the time like big corporate entertainment shows. So companies would call them and say, we want you to come and create like a big cirque style show for the launch of our new car or for the launch of our new ride. Like I said, this is a long time ago. This is over 20 years ago, and so much has happened since then. And I really wish I kept a journal because the details would have been in there. And now I'm just trying to piece it all together, and I'm sure that I'm getting some of these memories mixed up with the memories of other things anyways. So I was working for this production company. We had been flying all over the United States to do these fun corporate gigs. Like I said, launches of cars, launches of amusement park rides, just big company picnics, things like that. This company was asked to create the entertainment for the final week of a world cruise on a ship that was going to be retired after this journey. So it was like the very, very last trip of this cruise. And here is the first thing that is sort of complicated. I can't remember what ship it was. I know that seems like I'm making it up, but I'm not making it up. I just can't remember what the ship was called, and it was because I never really got on it. And back then, how old was I? 22-year-old Morgan wasn't interested in cruise ships yet. I was just interested in this job that was going to pay me, I think it was $600 for the week. So at the time, the size, the name, anything about the cruise ship, I didn't know anything about it. I just accepted the job and got the itinerary of what we were going to be doing. And what we were supposed to do is fly from New York or wherever, we were coming from all over in the country, but I was in New York at the time. We were to fly from New York to Lisbon, Portugal, and in Portugal we were going to get on the ship, and then it was going to be a transatlantic voyage from Lisbon back to New York, and I think it was supposed to be 8 days, and we were going to be the entertainment on board. And like I said, it was the final leg of a world cruise, and after that, the ship was going to be retired. And if I remember correctly, and like I said, I could be wrong, the plans were to sink it someplace to make it into a coral reef. And like I said, I'm going to try to find out this information between now and when I post the video on Sunday, because today it is currently Thursday. So that gives me a little bit of time. So, as promised, I found it out, everybody, and this is it. It is the SS Rotterdam. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Anyways, the ship was not sunk. I don't know if I remembered that wrong or if the plans were changed, but it is now a museum ship and a hotel in Rotterdam. Maybe I should go over there and actually visit the ship now and do a tour of it to sort of like, fulfill the prophecy or however you would describe it. What do you think? As I was saying, I didn't know anything about the ship. I was just like, I had been doing these gigs, and we would get the offer to say, so Morgan, we have a new gig. If you want to do it, we're leaving on that day. It'll be in Tennessee in the Opryland Hotel. We're staying there 3 nights. We rehearsed 2 nights, and the gig is on the 3rd day, and then we're flying back that night. This is how much it's going to pay, and we're going to be doing these numbers, which we know you've done in the other shows. Are you interested? And I would say yes or no. And, I basically always said yes because I just needed the money and a job. And this was just another one of those things for me. It didn't seem, that special to me. I mean, of course, it felt sort of cool to be like, hey, do you want to fly to Portugal and go on this cruise ship and work, for a week and make $600? And I was like, yeah, cool. Why not? I'll do it. I've never been on a cruise ship before. I've never been to Portugal. I had been to Europe, but I had never, been to Portugal. So I accepted the job, and there were some complicated things about doing this gig that sort of messed up a lot of things in my life. And these are things that I'm literally just remembering now when I sit down and talk about it. So it's like an interesting journey through the past. The 2 things are my roommate and my day job. I had been living with a roommate, somebody who I'd never met before. I answered his roommate ad and moved into his apartment in the extra room, and it was on 195th and Broadway, way up in Spanish Harlem. And this guy was weird. He made a really good first impression, but then the longer I lived with him, and I think I only lived with him for like a half a year or something, but he was weird. He had some mental health issues. He constantly thought people were following him. He would come home and shut all the doors and put all the blinds down and turn off the lights and tell me I wasn't allowed to talk or use the phone. And that's something for a whole other story time, but I don't think that belongs on this channel. So if I ever start another channel, that will definitely be a story I talk about, because that was weird, and there were a few times where I felt sort of afraid, like I felt unsafe living with him. So maybe someday I'll tell that story, but like I said, not on this channel. Anyways, he was really weird about when I was there and when I was not there, and of course, I had to pay the rent on time or he would kick me out. And when you're 22 years old and living in New York City and trying to make it as an actor, it's not easy to pay the rent on time. At least it wasn't for me at that time. So that was a constant level of stress for me, is not only did I know I had to pay the rent on time. I guess everybody has to pay the rent on time, but I just was also kind of scared of this guy. Another thing was, in order to help me pay the rent on time, I also had a day job. I was working as a reservationist and on the coat check for a very fancy, very upscale steak restaurant on Madison Avenue that I know still exists, and I have so many stories about working there, which would also be for another channel, not the very unofficial travel guides. So I was offered this gig, and it was I want to say it was kind of last minute. And I remember the schedule, I think this is correct, the schedule had already been written for the steakhouse, and I was on the schedule for this week. There were only, I think, 3 of us working there. And so I talked to the other 2 people. One of them was a good friend of mine. I talked to both of them to ask them, could you guys cover my shifts this week? Is there, any way we could make that work? And they were both like, no, sorry, they also had other things they were doing and they couldn't pick up any more shifts. So I basically had to tell the manager, listen, I have this really great opportunity to fly to Portugal and to work on a cruise ship for a week, and it's making more money that week there than I'll make in like 2 weeks here, and I'd really like to take it. I mean, I kind of have to take it because, you know, I want to work more with this production company. And I feel like if I say no, I'm kind of burning that bridge. And the manager she was not very accommodating, I guess you could say. She was like, sure, you can do that, but then don't come back working here. And I was like, okay, I guess that's that. So yeah, I mean, I basically had to quit. I didn't like then and I don't like now, and I wouldn't recommend now ever leaving any employer under those circumstances because there is no way they will ever hire you back. So yeah, but like I said, I really was interested in doing more of these gigs with this production company because they were fun and they paid a lot of money for just a short period of time usually. I mean, at that time, $600 a week was, you know, a lot of money. Now that's not really a lot for that kind of work at all anymore. Anyways, it just seemed like the best thing to do at the time, and I figured there was going to be more gigs coming up from this production company, and there were, and so that's why I felt like, okay, well then I guess I'll just sacrifice my job at the steakhouse, and that was that. Like I said, there's so many of these things that I'm just remembering now, how this all fit together and how it affected my life. So, fast forward. I quit my job at the steakhouse. I told my crazy roommate, I'm going to be gone for a week, so you have the place to yourself, which, yeah, was weird because I knew that he was going to be going through my stuff. So I even, like, packed up certain things and hid them under my bed and whatever just because it was really weird living with him. And the day came, and I took a cab to the airport, and I flew with some other members of the cast to Portugal. When we got to Portugal, we met up with the production manager for this gig, and he was like, you guys, there's a problem. So this is where the whole cruise part of it gets interesting. There was apparently a really, really bad storm off the coast of Portugal. And it was so bad that the ship couldn't come into port. This seems weird to me because I've heard of ships not being able to tender because of bad weather. Or, you know, also like if you go to Coco Key in Royal Caribbean's private island in the Bahamas, I also know that if the weather's really oh no, but they tender there too. So yeah, I mean, I've never heard of a ship not being able to dock like on a continent, you know what I mean? Like not being able to dock in Miami or something because the weather was so bad. But anyways, that was the situation then. The complication, of course, was this was the last stop. There was no, it's not like we could fly to the next port and board the ship there before it started the transatlantic journey. It was not stopping again. We were supposed to literally go from the airport to the port and board the ship, but the ship was not there. So the first thing that the production company did was take us all to a hotel. From there, we just had to wait and find out what was going on. And there were so many discussions happening at the time. If the ship would like change its plans and then go to a different port, because not only did we have to get on the ship, but the ship was about to start a transatlantic journey and they were planning to pick up all these supplies, you know, like food and beverages and dump off waste and stuff like that, I'm sure. And, you know, now that I think of it, they couldn't do any of that either. So we were in this hotel. I don't remember very much about the hotel itself. I've stayed in so many hotels since then. And like I said, I was 22 and it was all just a big adventure for me. And I don't know, it just didn't seem somehow like important to me at that time. I was just like, all right, well then we'll wait here and see what happens. At one point, the plan was that they were gonna fly us all in helicopters out to the ship and like airdrop us down onto the deck, which seemed really exciting to me, but you know, now that I'm like older, I think that seems like actually kind of petrifying. Although it would have made a really great YouTube video if I had been doing this back then, and if there was even such a thing as like YouTube back then. That idea was scrapped, and eventually, I think around, I don't know, early evening, they realized, nope, it's not gonna work out. There is no way they are gonna get all of us with all of this gear onto the ship. Like I said, the ship could never even come into land. They were someplace way off the coast. And yeah, they had to begin the transatlantic journey without even making the last stop. And to make it even worse, that also meant there was no entertainment. This was like a huge gala event. Like I said, it was the very last journey of this ship. And they had, I'm sure, really, like hyped up what was supposed to be the entertainment program. And there was nothing. It never happened. And I still to this day wonder, how did they entertain the guests for the final week if none of us were on board to do what we were supposed to do? I'm assuming there was a lot of karaoke. So you might be asking yourself, well, what happened to you guys? How did you get back home? And this is what I can remember. We were told then, so you guys, you're not going to be getting on the ship, and we will supply your airfare back to New York. You just let us know if you want to go sooner or later. We're paying for your flight anyways. If you want to stay longer, you guys just have to pay for your hotel room and all your expenses as far as that goes, but no, we'll pay for your flight back. And of course, that was an amazing opportunity that I in no way took advantage of. I was, like I said, I was young. I was not all that adventurous. Not adventurous like I am now in that sense, but that kind of just came from experience and knowledge. At that time, I was like, okay, I'm in a country, I don't know anything about it. I hadn't done any research about Lisbon or about Portugal because I wasn't planning to stay there. I had no plans to be there, to stay there at all. I was supposed to get off of the plane and get on the ship and then be on the ocean. So, I was kind of paranoid. I was like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do here? And, I only know a few people from this cast, but, I have to ask one of them if they want to be roommates with me. And also, I didn't know if I was going to get paid for the job now. And, I didn't really have any money. I think I had my credit card, and all the money I was making at the steak restaurant and from these other gigs, it was like all going to pay the rent. So I did something really stupid in hindsight. I didn't take advantage of being in Portugal for free, basically. And I think I was the only person in the whole cast who was like, no, I want to be on the next flight home. And I remember they checked me into a hotel room. They paid for the hotel for the first night because the earliest flight was the next morning. And I remember from the hotel calling my weird roommate and telling him, listen, I hope this isn't going to be a problem, but I'm actually coming back tomorrow. And like I said, this guy was really weird, and he started asking all these questions, and then he accused me of lying to him and trying to mess with his head. Like I said, this guy was really, really complicated. And so I had that to look forward to when I got home, and I also called the steak restaurant. Oh, I forgot about that. I also called the steak restaurant, and I was like, oh, so, this job that I said I had that was really important that I had to take, and that's why I had to quit, like, with almost no notice. Yeah, that kind of fell through, so could I have some shifts again? And of course, they were like, adios. So that was all messed up for nothing as well. I lost my day job, I lost this job, I made things even worse with my roommate, and it was all connected to the first cruise that I never even got on. And that is the story of my first cruise. Like I said, it's just pieced together from memories. I did not make any of this up. If any of it seems constructed, it's just because I'm trying to connect the dots. It's over 20 years ago, so, things happen. If any of you guys have any information about this ship, if any of you have any information, or if any of you were perhaps on that final journey, please, please, please get in touch. And now comes the time on Sunday Sofatime where I talk about your comments live on air. In last week's Sunday Sofatime, I listed every cruise port I have ever been to, except the few that I forgot. So these comments are talking about that video, and the first one is very relevant to the video from today, and it's from Brian Formeau. Brian writes, Morgan, thanks as always for another pleasant afternoon. Brian, thank you for hanging out with me. Had to go back and rewatch the Clown Lady story, and you reminded me of my own epic Mediterranean trip. It was a February-March sailing and a bit colder than usual, and we had a very rare wind event where we couldn't dock in Civitavecchia. Wait, I mean Civitavecchia. So, Yeah, it happens to other people too, apparently, on newer ships and in Civitavecchia. Needless to say, no one was in a good mood, and being cold, we were all squashed inside. Morgan, this ship is not really big enough. The Epic? Not big enough? Not sure if I agree about that. Anyways, even though I was lucky enough to be in the Haven, a true luxury experience, once you got to the lower decks, it was a free-for-all. People were sitting everywhere, many cone ladies from reserved bar seats, squabbles to nasty diners and show reservation rants. God bless you, I don't know how you did it. So the comment goes on here, I'm gonna skip some of it, and Brian writes on the end, I hope this gave you a read for the bus. I definitely need a new journey travel as well. Yes, Brian, thank you for sharing that, and yeah, how could you have known how relevant it would be for the video from today? So yeah, that happens, and you know, there is one other cruise I can remember being on where we did miss a port, but it was also where we had to tender, not go on to land, and that was the MSC Magnifica cruise, which I have talked about so many times, and we were supposed to tender at the German island of Helgoland, and we missed that port as well, and of course there were grumpy people on the ship too, so been there, done that. The next comment is from Cabin Crawl. Cabin Crawl writes, ha! I pronounce it Chikavecchia also. No disrespect to the Italians, but our tongues just don't twist like that. I know what you mean. Stephen S. writes, Sunday Sofatime videos are my go-to videos while I'm on the recumbent bike at the gym. So, Stephen, are you on the bike right now? Are you? How many calories have you burned? How far are you going? Go, go, go! And I wonder, Stephen, if I make a shorter video, does that mean you stay on the bike a shorter time? And if I make a longer video, does that mean you stay longer? Am I like directly responsible for the length of your workout? That's a lot of pressure. Anyway, Stephen writes, I can watch the videos but cannot comment until I'm home on the real computer. Megan Bay, I think you mentioned, is in St. Thomas. Thanks, I couldn't remember that while I was listing it. St. Martin or St. Martin is where the port is located. It's an island half Dutch and half French. Maho Beach is where the jets land 100 feet above your head. Yes, that was cool. As the Princess Juliana International Airport, runway is literally feet or meters from this famous beach. Yeah, I've been there. I've made a video about it. Of course, I prefer Orient Beach on the French side where there's the nude beach. Oh, those French. Yes, I've been to Orient Beach. I've been to all these beaches that Stephen listed, and I like them all, and I would really love to go back again. And I was really happy to hear that some of you wrote that you've been there recently, and that they're rebuilding everything and reconstructing everything that was destroyed, and that it's looking better and better. And that makes me really happy because they're just some beautiful places, and I feel so bad for the people whose lives and businesses and everything were destroyed because of that hurricane. So, Stephen, keep pedaling that bike. Everybody else, thanks for hanging out here on Sunday with me and going through all these memories of the first cruise I had that never happened. I'll be back next week. I might be reading some of your comments as well, so be sure to write something down there in the comments below. And I hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.